Welcome to Forever Exiled. I'm Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Episode 200 of Forever Exiled.
Bring on the bubbly.
Yeah, we said it'd be a hot tub podcast, so we're just gonna step on into the hot tub for a little bit. And so you don't get to enjoy the visual, but both obviously fully nude. And
you'd want it. You remember those commercials?
What was that from?
That's is it Cheese Whiz?
It sounds very sexual.
Cheese Whiz. Oh, it was awesome. But like it would be like
it's gotta be a 90s
a teen being like it was a total commercial. Yeah, from the 90s. And there was be like a teen who's being just a total prick. The stereotypical like rebellion teen kind of thing. And they're at the grocery store with their mom, and then all of a sudden the mom's like getting ready to buy or just finishes buying the Cheese Whiz, and he like takes it instead of it going in the car to him going home with her in the car. He takes it and he's like skateboards all the way home. And when she finally gets home with the groceries, he's already eating it. And it's like, you want it.
It's funny because I don't see commercials anymore. I wouldn't even know commercials now. But yeah, commercials. Yeah, I kind of miss them. Like I don't actually want to watch them, but
there's some hilarious ones, man, that we rewind a ton and laugh at. They're good.
Anyway, thanks everybody. Like really a big thank you. Episode 200. It's very cool how many people hang out with us and listen, and we're proud of what we've made, and it's fun to do. So thank you for listening and hanging out with us. Big shout out to our patrons. Obviously, you guys rock. Thank you for the resubs this week. And Patreon gets you access to After Dark, our podcast after the podcast, and sticker, card in the mail, all that good stuff. And this week is not going to be 2.5 hours long. I am certain of it. And we're back to our normal recording plan here. We're in our own places. In the hot tub. But there's not going to be any mic handling. Oh, did you listen to last week's episode? I know it's.
Yep, I did. I knew it would drive you nuts.
Yeah. I don't know how like annoying it is to other people, but for me, from just the audio side, it was tough to edit. I didn't listen to the whole episode through afterwards, but yeah, it was a little tough because there's only so much you can do, when we're getting handsy. And
it was probably all your fault.
Probably. But you know what? It was a fun episode. 199. I gotta say 200 is very cool. We haven't done anything crazy big like we've done in the past, and a big reason for that for me personally is because 199 crushed me. It was so tiring. I didn't want to think about anything podcast or Path of Exile for a couple days after that.
Well, you had a 2.5 hour After Dark and 2.5 hours of the normal episode, and you had to do them in the tightest time frame possible because we like to have them out at a certain time on our Sunday morning. But by the time ExileCon was finished, like we did everything we could in our uncreative brains to try and get it so that we were finished at an appropriate time for you. But you nailed it. So good job, Jess.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a cool experience. It was a lot of fun to do. But yeah, I was not even thinking about 200 after that. 200 was years away at that point. But it was fun. We had a good time. And again, thanks everybody for helping us make 200. It's very cool. How was your week, mon frere?
I had a great week, man. Like it was obviously really exciting to have ExileCon and like just the biggest news that we've had since ExileCon, the first one, and PoE 2 was announced. And sure, it came with its ups and downs in terms of the release date and then what that did for the emotion throughout. But at the end of the day, especially in retrospect, it was such an exciting time as a Path of Exile nerd. And that kind of like monopolized my brain quite a lot, just like all the different things I'm thinking about. And of course, Discord's a lot busier than it would be at like the down period of a league. And so many people are having conversations about if, ands, or buts, either about 322 or about, what's coming for Path of Exile 1 and 2 in the future. So it was a lot of fun. It definitely revolved around a lot of that. But I had so busy, man. This summer's been so busy. I just need some downtime. And it sucks because like next week we're going to a Soyuz. I feel like it's just been nonstop. Busy. And now we're going to Soyuz for 5 days. And I don't like nothing. I don't want to go, but it's not because of what we're going to. It's just I'm tired.
Yeah.
I just want some time to myself now. So anyway, this week it was like with the kids and I, we went back to swimming. And so we went to the rec center and had a great time. We went to the zoo this week. I was about 3 weeks of not mowing my lawn because of, going camping and then going to the Jays game and then all the other stuff that we had lined up. So it was about 3 weeks. My grass was crazy long, but my Ryobi crushed it. One charge, 500 square meters. It was awesome.
Are you watering your lawn right now?
It was pretty sweet. Nope.
It's still growing?
No, I don't care about it.
Wow.
The backyard is, because the backyard really doesn't need to be watered because it gets so much shade and sun. We have evergreens only on one side, so that morning dew stays until, like, I can't mow that back lawn until mid-afternoon just because of how wet the lawn is. Even in like the dead heat of the summer, we've had one rainy day in like 2 months. You know what I mean? It's just been nonstop mid-20s weather or mid-20s sun or close to 30s. And so yeah, so anyway, it's been very dry, but my back lawn, it gets the perfect amount of moisture and
like our
sun just from the dew.
Front yard, so, not so much.
My front yard doesn't look like I've been putting any effort into it at all. So I decided that I'm going to do things a bit different next year. I probably decided this last year too, but I forgot. So hopefully I remember for next year. But I'm just going to cut my front lawn on the highest mower setting. Second highest. The highest one's like,
may as well not run it over. Yep.
Right. But the next one down, which is I think at 3 3/4 inches. And so I'll just keep it nice and tall, and hopefully that'll work. I don't really want to play the watering game like I was earlier this year, and where we live, I have to wake up at like 6 a.m. because we have like water restrictions once our water sources, like we have there's like, restrictions level 1, restrictions level 2. It depends on, how low our water sources are. So there's only certain days and certain times of the week you're allowed to water your lawn. I'm not going to bother with that anymore. So I'm just going to let Mother Nature do it. So I'm just going to keep it nice and tall. And, but it's going to be good. Like I had a lot of fun with it, and I did a lot of gardening as well. A lot of stuff that needed to get done so that it wouldn't get, fighting some morning glory. Well, it's not some morning glory. Our neighbor does not control their yard at all. And their whole house is just, everything's covered in morning glory. And it's such a chore to keep it off my property. And I just haven't been able to do it. It's been too busy of a summer, and now it's starting to overlap. We have almost like a wall of maybe 12-foot tall lilacs on the one side of our property. It's eating them alive, and it's so tough to kill and get rid of. And it's starting to spread into the neighbor behind us. Like, so from my neighbor on the one side through our yard, going into now the neighbor that we have on the back side of our property. And I actually went over when we were delivering papers, and I'm like, she was doing gardening outside in our front yard. And I'm like, listen, I just want to let you know, I'm not being apathetic. Like, I'm really trying to control the morning glory. And yeah. So anyway, but it's been a lot of fun. It's just been a lot of work, and I wish that I could have some time off, but we're going to a Soyuz soon. It'll be a fun time in a Soyuz, but for me, time off isn't going somewhere.
It's on fire right now.
Yeah, we might not be able to go. We might not be able to go. Both sides of the location that we want to go in a Soyuz are surrounded by big forest fires. Yeah. So maybe we won't go, but maybe we will. Anyway, did you have a week? I'm assuming it was quite busy because of all the stuff that you put aside for ExileCon, but how was your week?
Just work. Yeah, it was a lot of work. And then we had my daughter's 6th birthday, so that was fun. We always take our kids out for lunch on their birthdays, my wife and I. We've just always done that since my oldest was in kindergarten. So we always just take them one-on-one. Well, the two of us and them. So she got to pick where to go for lunch, and what kids pick for lunch is hilarious. So we we went out for lunch, and then yeah, it was fun. It was I didn't get to spend as much time with them as I'd wanted to, but we still got my wife's cousin from Chile living with us. She's here for one more week, and so they've been hanging out a lot and doing stuff. But otherwise, it was just work. I played a Minecraft a bit with people from our Discord for our, what is it called, Path of Exile Minecraft server. So that's been fun. And other than that, that's literally been it. I have not really, like, I'm glad you got some notes and you had some time to think about at least a little bit about it, because I haven't even thought about Path of Exile besides Beck's leaving, which we're going to get into, and then anything I caught up on Discord. It was not much of a Path of Exile week for me, so it was good though. The week was good, and
totally
this weekend should be a little bit chiller, but yeah, it's good.
Cool. Well, why don't we bring up Beck's leaving now? You brought it up.
Oh, sorry,
It's,
I skipped a beat.
No, it's no problem at all. It's nice. I mean, very happy for her. Congratulations, Bex. I mean, I don't know if that was obviously it's a big decision. I don't know if it was a difficult decision or not, but that's awesome that you at least got to get to 10 years and you got to experience an ExileCon because she missed the last one.
She was at the first one. I saw her say that she missed it, but she was there. My son met her. She was at a table signing with Chris, so maybe she didn't get to go to all of it. I'm not really sure, but she was there. But anyway,
well, congratulations on such a big decision, and you're going to be obviously very, very missed. The community absolutely loves you, and we think you were fantastic and wish you the best.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Obviously, she's moving on to something new and exciting, which is cool for her. I think that's a lot of fun, a big move too from, the role that she played and where she is with GGG. I'm not envious of GGG or the next person that comes into that role. I assume because they have a team, right? So I assume there's probably somebody that steps up into that role versus them bringing somebody new into that role. But for them to have to try and hire someone in that role when she has the notoriety that she has within the community is really tough for them to find somebody. And then for that person to come into that role who's filling those boots is a really tough spot to get into. So I'm not envious of either, because like the thing is too, when for that role, like her, what do they call community manager is what the role is actually called. You're dealing with like some of the greatest people in the world and some of the stupidest people in the world. Like there's just a huge gap of people that you deal with. And I'm not talking just specifically to Path of Exile. So calm down before somebody starts messaging me and like, I'm not saying just specifically that some Path of Exile has some of the stupidest people in the world. I'm just talking about people that can get onto the internet.
Just in general.
Yeah. So you have great people who love the game, which I do think is probably the primary group of people, but you also have very loud people, unfortunately, that are not. So that's a tough role to jump into, especially when you're filling the boots of someone who's done it for so long and so well. So yeah, congrats to Bex.
And with so much happening now too, right?
Yeah,
because there's so much. I mean, you obviously want somebody that's been with the company already for quite a while, and they probably already have somebody in mind. There's probably already somebody that's been groomed or whatever the situation is, or having multiple people. Remember who is that guy from CBC that left? And then they ended up replacing him with four journalists instead of one. He's huge. He's huge.
But clearly, I mean, neither of us know who he is. Cronkite. Well, it's got to be that guy, right?
Who? That's a good news name. Hi, I'm Ron Cronkite.
Yeah.
Who left?
The only person I can think of from news when I watched it like years ago was Tony Parsons. Remember Tony Parsons?
Oh, I do.
That's the only one I can remember. I don't know any of the news people. But while Tyler's looking that up, congrats, Bex. I wish you luck. I think
Peter Mansbridge.
Oh, thank you for interrupting. That was very rude, but congrats.
Well, what were you saying? I wasn't listening.
Congratulations to Bex.
Yes, congratulations, Bex.
But also Peter Mansbridge.
You're fantastic, Bex. We love you very much, and we really hope that you're just smiling nonstop from this point forward.
Yeah, have fun in whatever you're doing. You're going to be missed, and good luck to whoever's filling that role.
Yeah, Peter Mansbridge.
There we go. We figured it out.
Was amazing, and then was replaced by 4 people doing his job.
I think it probably is easier to have a team than an individual, but I do feel like most places do have like that one individual that's then backed by a team. So
you can't have 4 people clogging up that meeting room. Still got to be one person,
Yeah. Well, anyway, it'll be interesting to see what they do, but that's a big move for her, especially at this time. Like there's so much happening within the game. So,
but good timing too, right? I mean, GGG, we'll
maybe
get
she
into
heard
it, they
the
don't even
date
have
for the release of PoE 2 and was like, nope. No, I'm not doing this.
That's right. She's like, what?
Yeah, she was
not far away. Are you didn't tell me this. Yeah, right. Like she wouldn't know, but still, yeah, no, that'd be pretty funny. But yeah, no, now these people that are showing up, I mean, this is Bex's last week coming up, and they don't have they were opting to record their own, or I guess edit the Twitch video as opposed to have their own content, because they don't have anything on YouTube yet, which I think is kind of crazy.
Weird. Why not just throw the whole thing
They're gonna
up?
go back. Well, they have both like 10-ish hour.
Oh, do you mean like shorter
Twitch
things?
videos,
Like, hey, here's our dev thing here. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That
they only
shouldn't
have the
take that
pre-recorded. Well, but even to not have it,
hire someone.
I don't know. Like, I guess they're taking their Twitch footage and doing it, as opposed to their own
recorded
thing
stuff, yeah.
or their own recording camera or whatever. I don't know. It seems like a long time after already. You know what I mean? And because I've been looking for videos, I want to do it, and it's like contrary to hype to have like these videos available a week or two after the convention, right?
Yep.
Which respect Broccoli and I on Twitch last night. We're joking around that it's called Dodge Roll Convention, because that was like the main subject of the entire thing. Every panel was like, but dodge roll, but dodge roll, but dodge roll, but you can do this with dodge roll, but they're small projectiles, but dodge roll. So it's funny calling the next game dodge roll instead of Path of Exile 2.
Yeah, it's cool. All right, what do we got? Let's start racking through these ideas and stuff that Ty's brought up.
Well, there was actually some patches.
Oh, was there? Okay.
Yeah, there were 4 PC patches.
Okay, cool. I didn't even open your things for those because I was like, I don't care. Patches,
right?
Who cares? We're not getting 322 yet, so.
Well, they replaced Path of Exile's particle system with Path of Exile 2's GPU-based system.
Oh, that actually could be nice if it means that my CPU, it's not so heavy on the CPU, because PoE is pretty bad for that.
And then they added a new triple buffering graphics option.
Triple buffering.
Enabling this. Yeah. Give me what'll kill me. Take it off just a little bit. Enabling this can offer better frame rate stability.
Cool.
And is recommended for slower GPUs. And then there are now 4 VSync graphics options: off, locked, fast, and adaptive.
Cool.
Okay. So that was one. Then there were actually a bunch of bug fixes out of nowhere. Not a bunch, but like 10 to 15. Stuff about like destroying items on the display case hideout, or a rare bug that would cause people to be not move properly, or something to do with Ancestor War Chief. So anyway, yeah. But it was all based on that. But it was interesting because out of nowhere, and this was just before ExileCon, maybe a week before, I think, all of a sudden Path of Exile got like this big 5 or 8 gig patch.
Yeah, it's still waiting for me to
what's going
update it.
on. And it was, and so they needed to come out with some stuff because there was some systems that it just was running very poorly on. So they came out with some fixes for that as well.
Cool.
Yep. And then they added support for the upcoming support packs that we talked about for 322 last week.
Sweet.
Yeah, and then in terms of announcements this week from Path of Exile's side, of course, Bex had her own announcement. That wasn't an official GGG thing. That just came from her own Twitter about herself. And we're all very excited for her. There was an ExileCon recap. There was the conversation of if Crucible is going core, and the answer was a very short no. There's aspects of it that they really like, but they'll see, of course, like the generic language, we'll see about bringing that back in a different way at another time after we've finished making all of our videos for ExileCon 2.
Cool.
So anyway, Crucible is not going core, and I'm fine with that. Though I think that suits the game much more than a MOBA. I think Crucible suits the game much more than
we haven't played it yet.
A roguelike. I think Crucible, well, just in general, what the League was like, all it is like it's just more monsters right in the middle of where you are, and it adds another passive tree. Like it all just suits the ARPG better than tower defense or a MOBA or a roguelike. So whether I would add it as is, probably not, but I really hope that item passive trees do come back. Not as strong, not anywhere near as strong. Something that's complementative, but definitely not overpowered. And
I would like to see them severely underpowered and no negatives. Like wickedly underpowered, but no negatives. I don't want to deal with the whole bullshit of like, this has now wrecked my item.
Right. So yeah, no, that I totally agree. So, but I just think it just suits Path of Exile so much that once you've introduced passive trees on items, it has to come back.
Hopefully.
Like, yeah, passive trees for everything. This is the only thing that's missing, except for maybe passive trees on a gem.
the passive trees actually is a cool idea too. Once you get into PoE 2, where the gems are different, like the way that, it's not the same anymore as like, oh, I can't, I've wrecked this bow and it was 6 linked. That's not a problem in PoE 2. So then the passive tree can become another reason to be looking to upgrade or change your gear out. So it would fit well in that.
Yeah. And then I totally agree. Yep. And then they updated their recently asked questions to be specific to, so they just completely wiped the page and they made it specific to
the new stuff.
Trials of the Ancestors.
And
there honestly wasn't much in there. They said that Friday, New Zealand time is when we can expect patch notes for the new league. And then there was just generic questions like, are we going to get teasers? When are the ExileCon videos coming?
Wait, so the patch notes will come out before we record next week then? Should?
Yeah, they're a day ahead of us.
Come out the day before.
Their Friday is our Thursday.
Cool. So we'll have something to talk about. And BK will be joining us for 201. So
awesome. Looking forward to it. Excellent.
That's cool. What else? Let's move into your stuff, right? Are we into your stuff now?
Sounds good. Yeah, we can. Oh, so you know how I was talking about for our merch store having a cool slogan that was, I think I was talking about this in After Dark, but I was trying to come up with just like and I have no idea how I didn't think of this before, but I'm so thankful that somebody helped out because I was trying to think of an interesting, like just a really short sentence that would incorporate like lawn work with wraeclast or Path of Exile or something. And so I was coming up with a whole bunch of different ideas. We were talking about what?
I'm understanding that comment now. I was lost. Sorry, you finished your sentence, but I just saw what you put in our notes.
And this is from AD 198. Yeah, so, okay.
Sorry.
So I'm trying to think of a lawn related, very short sentence or phrase that would be able to combine something Path of Exile that Path of Exile people would know, whether it be wraeclast, whether it be like a phrase that one of the classes has used often or anything like that, and incorporate it to lawn mowing. So it would be, the phrase would incorporate Path of Exile and Forever Exiled quite well. And so my apologies for not saying this properly.
It's Ninja Robot.
But oh, okay. Hi, Ninja Robot.
I think that's what it is, because that's what it is backwards.
Oh, you sneaky. But it's spelled Toborangnin. So yep. Ninja Robot, you sneaky. Anyway, they come out with Talamoana.
Okay, that's amazing. That's really clever. When I read that though, see, when we do our episodes, I very rarely listen back to them just because I've spent so much time editing them. Now I get them out and it's moving on to the next one. So I don't often hear. So when people
don't make time to wipe your bum.
Yeah. When people reference stuff in them, it's really hard. Sometimes I have to message Tyler and be like, what are they talking about? What did we say? Like, what happened? I saw that comment and I was like, I don't understand it, but cool. Like I didn't get it. Now it makes so much sense. That's awesome.
So thank you very much for that. I can't believe, honestly, like I'm not trying to downgrade the comment. I just can't believe I didn't think of that.
Yeah, that's very clever.
I say Talamoana sometimes on like my on other things, and it's even like part of like logins or funny things that I do with Godville or anything like that. And it's hilarious that I didn't think of it, but I'm so glad that Tobo or Ninja Robot
that's awesome
did mention it. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it's gonna work. It's going on.
I'm so bad that I didn't even like, you commented on it and we were like, that's great, or that's what a great, of course, or blah blah blah. And I was like, man, I don't know what they're talking about. Oh, that's awesome.
Now back to the Dodge Roll convention. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that you and I were joking around that they had the convention a year early, mm-hmm. and they should have had it next year, and then just corroborate that with the release of their beta and have more available, have more classes available.
Which we did find out the skill tree was grayed out purposefully.
Yep.
So,
but then even just have things like, pardon me?
I think that's silly.
Well, people can get a lot of information from that kind of stuff with how they go about it.
Their skill tree is the game. Like that's literally the biggest difference to them. But anyway.
And then you have, and they didn't have a lot of the classes available. They didn't even have the shape shifting, which was like one of their biggest selling points per se of the first 4 years ago ExileCon. Mm-hmm. And then they weren't even using monster mods for Path of Exile 2. They were using Path of Exile mods and it actually bit them in the butt a couple times because it just showed the frustration of some of the users while they were doing the gameplay. So despite the fact that we thought that it was like a year too early, quote unquote, I'm still very glad that they had a big deal or a big convention. I'm thankful they had it, whether it was good for them to do it or not, because before all we had was hopes. You know what I mean? Like it's 4 years away. So now we have like an official guideline basically for what to expect in the game. You know what I mean? Like we know this is now we're a year away from closed beta. Like very little is going to change now. right? Especially because how we were talking about in the previous ExileCon episode, they're doing things in a linear manner, right? Like they're going from like one act at a time, but they're also going like one item at a time, you know, or one mechanic or convention at a time. Like they've gone through currency, but they haven't even gone through all currency. They haven't even discussed Val Orbs and how those are going to work. They're still, I mean, the comment when div cards were brought up was that they could probably be in the game. I don't see why they shouldn't, but they haven't even talked about it. And that on a separate subject is crazy to me because they had like that's paid content.
Well, you and I talked about that during the event, and I'm kind of on the other side. Like that is paid content, but it was also Path of Exile 1. So like
but they told the promise GGG always said that they would always just make the one game and always update it. And so when people pour in $500 or $1,000 for a product, they know that's going to be in the game forever.
I don't know. I disagree. I don't think that was the case. I don't think it was ever promised as if like it will always be one game and all content will always carry over. I just don't think that was the case. And I do think it's reasonable to assume that if they create Path of Exile 2, that some of that content doesn't carry over. I do like div cards. I hope that some stuff carries over, but I do understand that some of it won't. And I would bet that a lot of people who, you know, did design stuff would probably be fine with that. It's been in the game for quite a long time, and it still will maintain itself within Path of Exile 1. It just may not carry over to 2.
Well, in the first ExileCon, they were talking about people's paid products that they have, paid items, whether it's uniques or div cards or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we have to have them. People paid and they have the expectation that's going to be in. But now that you're separating the game, in a way they can keep that promise because they're planning on keeping Path of Exile 1 running. But to me, that's kind of like a cheap shot if I've spent that much money. Like I was asking in our Discord for people that have recently put money towards actually having an item in the game. And they weren't that concerned about the individual. Suzu was one that replied, and they said that they weren't that concerned about it because GGG will likely just reach out to them and be like, hey, listen, can't bring your product over to PoE 2. What can we do? And then like they'll work together with the creators to try and come up with something for the new game. So that does make sense. And I really hope that happens because for me, with the original, what was originally said at the first ExileCon, along with the mentality that GGG always had until recently about separating the games, if I was to spend that much money, it was because it's going to be in the game forever. Whether it's a good item or not doesn't matter, whether it's included in filters or not. But yeah,
but the argument, so, anyway, I mean, you're kind of making both arguments because it is still in the game. So I don't know. It'll be tough to see. It's not like it's leaving Path of Exile 1. And
but that's the problem though.
Well, it is a new game. It's a different game. So that's where I draw a distinction. But I will say I don't actually, like for me, I don't see myself jumping back to PoE 1. But I have to say, from a lot of stuff I've read, I don't totally get it. I think people are maybe being a little bit too dramatic right now about some of the stuff with regards to PoE 2. A lot of people seem to think that they're going to continue playing PoE 1. I think their reasoning for that currently is unfounded. They go like, well, it's slow, or they changed this, they've changed that. I'm always going to play. So maybe people will still be continuously playing PoE 1, but I think it's a tough spot for them to be in, because if something doesn't fit, I wouldn't want them to force it in. So I don't really know where I fall on that one, but I do see the distinction between the two different games and the fact that the items will still remain in PoE 1. And, you know, if you wanted to use that specific unique or that idea or whatever, maybe you had to be playing in that build in PoE 1. So
I hear you. It's just companies have been sued for less.
I don't think that there's any risk of them being sued on this.
I don't know. It just seems like it was two separate promises on this side. And now that the game's getting separated, to me, in my mind, from a legal standpoint, you have to keep that content.
Well, from a legal standpoint, half the stuff they said at ExileCon 1 isn't coming through to ExileCon 2.
No, but there's still wording that comes with, like, when you buy and you spend that money and then you get that item in the game. So anyway, I just hope it's fine. And I hope that people that have put their money towards it are comfortable with it. It was just when I heard that Jonathan being iffy about div cards, that really surprised me. I expected it to be like, yeah, they have to, like, just like ExileCon 1, like, yeah, they have to be in the game. It's paid content by users. We told them that it would be. So I was very surprised that Path of Exile 2 being a separate game also included all that. Like, it provided an extremely clear perspective that they are starting from the ground up on everything. And part of me was like, maybe they're only keeping Path of Exile 1 going because of those promises of keeping those items in the game forever.
I think there probably will be some people that just prefer Path of Exile 1. And my bigger concern with Path of Exile 1 continuing is just the idea of them maintaining it and still being able to keep up the quality in PoE 2. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's true, because ever since they came out with their new mentality of quality first, which I guess should have always existed, but once that happened in Heist, right, and they started going quality first with everything, they were still working on Path of Exile 2 this whole time. And so they haven't actually been at a point where, since that new mentality started, where they've only been working on the one game.
But so, from the numbers they talked about at ExileCon, the amount of human beings working on PoE 1 is tiny. It's like a group of 3.
Yeah,
it's like really small. So especially compared to what's on 2. So they've done a really good job of PoE 1 and getting good leagues and good content. They've been relatively like glitch, they're not super buggy. So I feel like they've done a pretty good job. I think there's some credit to them for sure. I'm just curious, how long does that keep going? If PoE 1 stops making you money in the sense that people aren't buying, well, that's kind of weird, because now they're going to both match. So I don't know. I'm not sure. Guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I definitely, yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if PoE 1 eventually stops getting updates and it's just supported online.
I still feel like they should have just done that. Just turned it into standard. It's just a standard game. Yeah, sure. MTX can carry across, like keep it up like that, but whatever. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But my point was about GGG not actually having just supported their game completely because they've been working on Path of Exile 2 for so long. I meant that in a positive light. Like, now they're going to have all those people that have been making the game actually be able to sit down and support both games. It'll feel like they've tripled their employees, you know what I mean? Because they'll have all those people that are actually working on improving an existing game as opposed to creating something from scratch.
Do you mean once it's done, like in a year and a half?
So once PoE 2 is done,
yeah, okay,
right, then all of a sudden all those people are split up into all their normal roles again, and it's,
I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
a very well supported, including both. But I guess originally I was saying I'm very thankful that they had an ExileCon, because now we have guidelines. We know what it's going to look like, right? We know how the skill system is going to work for the most part. We know how items are. We know very little about items, but we have so much more definitive to talk about and to know about. There's a lot less hoping and dreaming about, wow, I really hope they do this, or I really hope they do that. There's things are a lot more concrete now, and it's a lot easier to have discussions about Path of Exile 2 because of everything we were shown and discussed. And so at the end of the day, even if they might have another convention next year, I'm very happy that they had a convention. It answered, despite the fact that I have 20 times more questions than I did from the beginning of the convention. A lot of my questions have been answered, and as a diehard fan, that's great.
Well, and
I'm excited.
You at least get a direction, which was cool. And the convention is so cool. Like, yes. Path of Exile, ExileCon 1 never had some expectation of some big announcement. It was just this big convention that had never happened before. So if they continue doing ExileCons, I think that'll be really cool, and it will maybe put less of a question mark in my head as to like, why did they do this one? If they do another one in a couple of years, it's not a yearly thing. That's crazy. It's way too much. But if that becomes an every like 2 to 4 year thing, then this one maybe makes a little bit more sense. Just don't let Chris talk beforehand, because I'll say it as many times as I fucking want. Don't tell people to go home. Period.
That was weird. Yep. That they didn't like just fix that and just say like, hey, listen, the original idea was 320. As a reminder, it was for 322.
Yeah, 322
got delayed, so
we're excited. Yep, go play it.
Yeah,
but I do think that ExileCon in general is such a cool event, and like a couple of our patrons and people on Discord went and had a blast. And yes, there was that like sticker shock of like, what? That long away for a closed beta, but the event itself is incredible. It's such a cool event. So yeah, I am glad they did too.
Professor Butts mention on After Dark comments that it was like the worst silence and reaction that you could get from a crowd.
Sure.
Like, it was like when they announced that date, it was like nobody expected the worst possible news for that date, and that yet there it was. And so you have such a stunned uncomfortable, unexcited, bored silence. And it takes some time, of course, to get over that. But like that sucks when you're like in there and you're expecting a cheer, and then it's like, oh, just like this silent thud.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, that was partly their own fault. They kind of built it up, unfortunately, but I realistically, whenever they come out with PoE 2 is going to be good, because then PoE 2 will come out in a good state. It's just that there was this maybe slightly unfair, but mostly their fault expectation that something new was coming, was going to be announced, and that we would certainly have a much closer date. So in the end, I agree with you. I think the ExileCon event was awesome. I'm glad they did it.
yeah. Yeah. And people are going to have no expectations for any convention coming forward.
That's right.
Like if people, they're going to be like, we are going to announce the release date of Path of Exile 2. It's going to be 1 week after the next convention. And people are going to be like, I wonder when Path of Exile 2 is coming out.
Yeah,
Nobody's going to believe them. They're just going to go for the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That's the best way to go about it. Now, we were talking about PoE 1, and I'm surprised. Like in our Discord, there's quite a lot of people. On Reddit, there's quite a lot of people. I'm surprised how many people say they're glad POV 1. Look at that. Hey, making my Google Notes with my voice typing with my Google Notes. I'm surprised how many people are glad that PoE 1 is staying on, and they expect to play Path of Exile 1 more.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Than PoE 2. I know, but that's a surprising thing to me.
I think it's.
But
my honest opinion, and I know people are probably going to just not be super thrilled with me saying it. I think they're being babies. I think they're looking at PoE 2 and just going, it's not what I expected. It's not how I expected to run. They're taking the versions of what we saw in PoE 2 and saying that this is the finished product. This is the end game product. Maybe a couple streamers said it felt slow, whatever the case is, and then just using that as their determining factor. I think it's way too early to be like, no, not touching PoE 2. It's not for me. I think that's crazy. We're a year and a bit out, or a year from a closed beta, probably a year and a half before the game actually comes out. We never saw anything end game. We never saw anything with built up gear, with skill trees at all, with normally tuned monsters, with proper monster affixes. Like we really did not see much. So to be like, no, this game's just not for me is bonkers. That's insane to me. Like, but that it sometimes is Path of Exile human beings. Like that's just
not the only
of
type. That's not the only attitude that's there though. Like there's a lot of people that are saying that they're very excited for Path of Exile 2. They know they're going to get burned out, and then they're going to play Path of Exile 1 because they're going to be on
that's different
shifting schedules.
Sure.
And then, but see, I'm the kind of player where, like, if you asked me to play Age of Empires 3, I'd say no, because we have Age of Empires 4, right? If you asked me if we were going to play Battle for Middle Earth, I'd be like, sure, let's play the second one, not the first one. Like to me, once Path of Exile 2 comes out, that's the only game I'm going to play. Yeah, I'm not going to bother.
I get that there's different people that will go back to it, because the thing is, you're going to have builds and stuff that's only available in PoE 1, and if you're used to that feeling, then I get it. I think that actually what you just explained is a reasonable response to be like, yeah, I'm going to play Path of Exile 2, and if I get burned out, at least then I have something else to go to, because it will be different. There will be different builds, different ascendancies, potentially different skills, whatever. I won't. That's not my feeling. Like, I'm not going to go back and play Path of Exile 1 when 2 comes out. So I get what you just said. That kind of makes sense to me. I think that I could understand that. I just can't understand the people who are just already shutting off PoE 2 and saying that they're only going to play, which I have seen quite a few people commenting on in multiple areas. And that one just dumbfounds me a little bit, because it makes no sense.
I saw some D4 lovers commenting throughout the live presentation, be like, oh, this is so stupid. You already have D4 out, and now you're putting out something with such slow gameplay. Oh, you're gonna feel so weak. All it is pretty
it's
pretty
act
funny.
1 through 4.
Like I have no criticism to anyone that has their preference. I'm just surprised how, like, my original, when they said we're gonna keep Path of Exile 1 on, because of what I know I'm going to play, I was like, really? Like, that seems like such a waste of time and resources and all this. And then the amount of people afterwards in our community and outside of our community that were like, I'm so glad they're keeping Path of Exile 1 on. That just really surprised me. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's a good thing for them
nothing
to say
wrong with it.
When
I'm
PoE 2
just
so far,
surprised.
You can't have, for 99% of people never got to play PoE 2. haven't had a chance to play PoE 2, have no idea what it feels like to play PoE 2. And in fact, nobody but them knows how PoE 2 is potentially going to play in the end game. So, you know, if they all of a sudden said, we're going to be, you know, PoE 2 is coming out and PoE 1's going to be gone, and then they showed the gameplay that they showed, people would it probably wouldn't go very well for them. So whether they plan to actually maintain PoE 1 like super long term, I guess we'll see. But
yeah, I guess that'll be a game time decision as things go by.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing that I'm actually, and this just clicked the other day, and I guess I'm kind of embarrassed to say that it clicked so late, but nonetheless, I am very excited to start Path of Exile fresh. Like
sure.
I think like from a community perspective, like I hope they don't tell us any of the vendor recipes.
I'd be shocked.
Like that's what I'm excited about.
No way they will.
I just really, I don't want them to tell us anything about those kind of things. Like imagine as a community, like you did this at the beginning, and I'm not like envious, but I really like, it would have been so cool to be a part of that, where now everybody gets to do what you did back in the beta days, where it's like there's a community that's figuring
like
things out.
together.
Like the wiki doesn't have anything except for maybe like the basics of mechanics, but how are you going to get chromatics from a vendor recipe? We don't know. And as a community, we find out all of a sudden it's on Reddit, and it's like the most upvoted thing of the week because somebody found out how to get chromatics or fusings, or not. I guess they won't have
and
fusings or jewelers
and stuff. Yeah, it's very fun.
But just, I really hope GGG doesn't post those little things, and that the community finds them out together. It would be so cool to be a part of that experience.
I think it's so
even
much
if
harder
I only
now,
play like,
because
yes,
stuff gets
of course,
data mined and people look into files, and I'm not a fan of that. I would rather it be an experience, and yeah, you discover it. Yep.
There was a part in I think it was the audio videos that we were watching. I think it was with Kane.
Mm-hmm.
He was watching around. It was looking at some of like the background noise and music and stuff. And I saw a level where there was Justice, like the statue of Justice that, you know, the character that Azaro wears, the green character when they're fighting. And they're basically the same statue that you click on for entering trials and stuff like that. So anyway, so I saw Justice, and I'm like, as a statue in one of the areas, and the area was called Azaro's prison,
I think. Yeah.
And it got me thinking, because they also said Mark and Jonathan said that you will not be ascending via trials or labs, but that doesn't say they're out of the game. It just says you're not using them to ascend. And the fact that Azaro has a prison, and it's only 20 years later lore wise, I hate labs. I hate trials. I love the Azaro fights.
I think you messaged me about this earlier this week, and I said maybe they'll make him like somebody you kill, because I think Jonathan said you're ascending in Act 2, 3, and 4. So maybe somehow you're fighting him. Although, how do you keep fighting? Maybe it's different. Maybe it's different bosses.
Does that mean we only ascend 3 times?
No, because the 4th one, if I had to guess, is the same as before, like maps or something. I don't know. I don't actually know. Maybe you do only ascend 3 times. I'm not sure, but they did only say 2, 3, and 4 were the ascending. There's got to be still something end game, right? Otherwise, it's kind of dumb.
It's nice that it's that early. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, but they're like, if you look at it relative to 10 acts, it's kind of pretty good. Like 2, 3, and 4 is 6 acts, so you're doing it in the middle half of your thing. So
yeah. So anyway, I just thought it would be really cool if Azaro was still in the game. You could still fight him for whatever, or Argus as well. I really like the fight. Obviously, some iterations of the fight are stupid, but if you were to just, as a GGG employee, if you were Mark and you got to redo the boss, it would be
There's very few of that fight, though, that is like stupid like some of their other bosses. There's no immunity phase. Like all of the stuff interacts with each other and makes, like, that's one of the things that I think they nailed with Azaro, is that there's multiple versions of this guy you're going to fight. He may have different weapons, different moves, and then the modifiers in each zone can change him too. Like, it is a well-designed fight. There's not too many stages besides traps in that last room. But that felt uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. But they also did a good job. Like, if you were a lab runner, it's really cool to build your own boss like that.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like that, he was the first metamorph per se, where you could impact how he would fight and what would be in the fight. And how cool is that, right? I mean, a lot of people, they just want to do the lab and go home and that's it. But it's for those that actually paid attention to it, it feels really cool to actually be able to do that yourself. Now, whether they would implement that into Path of Exile 2 or not, I don't know. But imagine taking just, whoever's creating the boss gets to take all their favorite elements of Azaro and then put Azaro in Azaro's prison. And maybe you have to get through Azaro's prison to get through to the other side. And so maybe you have to fight Azaro and Argus or something. So anyway, that's just what I thought. And all that was in like Kane's video where he's showing background.
Oh, you brought it up as soon as we were there.
The Justice statue. I'm like,
mm-hmm.
So I really hope Azaro's still in there. That would be wicked to have him. But pick the good stuff, GGG. Like who was it that was fighting? I forget who was fighting. I think it was Crip. He was fighting that boss he was like in caves, but it was like red deserty caves. And it was that boss that stomps the ground and then the ceiling falls down. And then there's the sunlight that you can stay in to stay safe. So that boss explodes after a long duration after it dies. And that kind of stuff's disheartening because it's like, you don't need that crap in this game. It's not a fun element at all. And especially when they originally added on death effects to slow players down. And now you have the game crazy slow. That's like Act 2 or something. And it's like, and then especially after you add the fact that they're saying that they're making boss drops so much better. Like your best currency drops can come from them. Like all that kind of stuff. You're excited for that final kill. You finally do it. You're looking at your gear that you've been so excited. You just spent like 5 minutes on this boss. Boom.
I like bosses exploding after death because some of it's thematic, but it shouldn't do damage, or it should do like negligible damage. It's not going to kill you, but it looks cool because, this thing, the core of his heart just exploded or something. Like that's cool.
Right.
Don't make it one shot somebody when you've got loot on the ground. Not only just loot. In that particular instance, that boss also dropped one of these new things that give you like permanent
soul thingies, right?
And am I supposed to just grab it and run, or am I supposed to like wait outside and be like, all right, you do your thing, I'll come get my stuff in it? Like it doesn't make sense,
right? And then in that case, this is off topic now, but in that case, Crip was like, did I get it? Did I not? I forget if it was Crip or Nugi. No, Nugi had someone with them, right?
I don't remember, but that one particular case, somehow they just got the loot. It didn't make sense. It was in their inventory later. They didn't have to go back. They were nervous. They didn't get the rewards because it wasn't on the ground anymore after they alted it. Right. And then it ended up, they discovered later that it was actually in their inventory automatically, but still stupid. So anyway, the point is though, that when I see that as a design and a boss, like that's not PoE 1 mods on a rare. They have that, and then I'm all of a sudden I'm like, oh, you're not putting that stupid stuff in. So now when they put Azaro in, I'm like, watch, they're gonna put Azaro in. I'm super excited. They're gonna put all the crap that I hate. He's gonna be loaded with the room of traps and poison darts and stupid saws on the ground, and that's gonna be the fight. I mean, none of that would make sense thematically if he's in a prison. They're like, all right, Azaro, you got to chill in prison, but take your guardians with you. You can set up some traps if you'd like. Like, it doesn't make sense. He should be a beaten down guy that you're just trying to fight or something. Who puts a guy in prison and is like, hey, here's your two-handed mace. You can keep your sword and shield and also your double swords. It's fine.
That's right. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe Justice comes by and gives them to him, and now he has green weapons.
Was Justice... like, I don't know lore stuff. Was a choice that Justice joins Azaro, or like what's the story?
No, she joins whoever's the Lord of the Labyrinth, I think.
Oh, is it?
So he's the layer, like she serves the Labyrinth, I guess.
Oh, but what happens if the Labyrinth's gone? Then she doesn't have
Well, I guess technically we're the Lord of the Labyrinth.
Maybe it's just a two boss fight with him and Argus. I didn't even think about Argus. You just brought that up, and that's a great idea. Him and his pet.
Well, it's like in Elden Ring when they talk about the Elden Beast. I thought it was like a big like king that you were fighting, and then it's like pet wolf or pet lion or something, the Elden Beast.
Yeah, and then you start fighting it, and it's like,
that's what I thought it was the whole time. So imagine my disappointment when it's some stupid starry fat dinosaur that all it does is fly to the other side of the arena, and the whole time you're like,
no, just stay.
You finally get there, and then it does some
It's like
stupid,
does some
beautiful
swirl.
spin,
Yeah.
and it goes to the other side. You're like, so I hope GGG's not taking those aspects of Elden Ring boss fights to heart, because
Some
I
of the
remember
boss fights in Elden Ring were cool though when they transformed, like that one jumping around lion looking thing when it transforms. Some of them were really cool. That one was kind of like
the Blade of Malekith was amazing, but like I don't want to run the whole time. And Dark Souls 2 was really bad for this, and I was disappointed they didn't learn from that. They had so many dragon fights in Dark Souls 2, but there was so much of it jumping around and flying away.
I mean, you
and
are
all
fighting
that.
a dragon. What do you want it to do? It's not tame.
Yeah, but there was so much of that added to so many other mechanics. And so I saw, for example, now this is 2019 example, I don't know if it's still there, but in Act 1 there was that boss that picks up a huge bell and like starts smashing it around, but as you continue to watch the demo, you are chasing that thing through like 5 different areas. It like runs away and you're like, all right, let's go to the next arena. And then you fight, and then it's like, oh, okay, now let's go to the next arena. I really hope there's not a lot of that. Like, I just want to fight.
Sometimes it's
what I mean?
cool for like, and again, we're talking acts, so it kind of like tells the story or whatever. As long as it doesn't reset, that would be a problem for me. If it's like you die, and you're like,
right.
Well, but yes, I agree with you. I don't want to do it every time. Or if I do have to do it every single area, then make sure I get loot each time maybe I break off loot off of his back or something. Because I had to do the Elden Ring, the Elden Beast fight in Elden Ring quite a lot. Oh, yeah, it's a tough
and
fight.
the only reason that I hated it was the amount of non-fighting I was doing.
But the sounds and the music was beautiful.
If it stayed at Radagon, amazing fight.
That was a cool fight, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's all fighting. There's no chasing. It was great. Elden Beast was such a stupid end fight. So anyway, hopefully, because they referenced Elden Ring, and I think that's an amazing game to reference when it comes to your dodge rolls, when it comes to your boss fights, like great game to take notes from for sure. Just take the good stuff. Nobody likes chasing.
I don't think anybody in Elden Ring blows up after you kill them.
No.
Boss wise.
Hint, hint.
It is a terrible, terrible design in every game. The idea of death or effect on death or whatever is cool if it's just visual, but I have zero interest in it's the feeling every time that happens. I'll relate this back to another Elden Ring reference. When you fight, what's the girl that does the insane stuff with all the swords and flipping, and she goes friggin' bananas? She's got all leaves all over her. She's one of the end game bosses.
Oh, Millennia.
Yeah. On death effect feels like when you finally sweatily put the controller down in the first phase, and then she goes into a second phase, and you're like, no, I barely got here. I have nothing left. That's what on death is like. It's not fair. I did it. You're dead.
Yeah. I do love that phase fighting though. Like you get so excited. You're like, oh, finally. And you're like, you've used all your flasks. You're empty. You finally did it. And then you're like empty on flasks. And then they raise again as the Uber version. I love it. It's hilarious because it's like, because at that point you're so disheartened because you've tried like 10 times to finally beat the boss. You did it, and now you realize
10 is kind.
But now you realize you should have done that first stage without using any flasks, right? Because you need to save them all for the second section. The Black Flame of Freed, I think her name is my favorite fight in every single From Software game, and she's from Dark Souls 3, one of the expansions in Dark Souls 3. She has 3 phases, and every time you're like, yeah, it just gets more and more epic, and pretty awesome.
The first time, because I played Elden Ring like as soon as it came out, so the first time I did Millennia and just got crushed when she went into a second form. I think over the next week or two, I was watching videos purposefully just to see people on their first attempts with Millennia, because I wanted to watch the reaction of people when she transformed, and it was beautiful to watch somebody else go through that.
It's just through that hell. That's right.
Just that, like, no, that's not what this cutscene's for. Come on, there's got to be something else.
You know what though? You know what else is actually really annoying? And GGG and Elden Ring does do this, and it drives me nuts, is teleporting. Teleporting is not a fun skill to fight against because there's nothing to do against it. It's like a random disappear and then appear elsewhere, and you have to try and find them. The other night, last night, I was playing my zombie character, and I was doing a bunch of memories. So I was doing Einhar memories, and his are really cool because it combines some of the cool base types from the garden. What's the garden called? Harvest. And turns them into red beasts. And there's just some of them where I got one of those things where I was just getting Soul Eater on every single one, and they were just do. I just couldn't. It would take me like 10 minutes to finally whittle this down because they have 200% more life, and they're constantly teleporting. And it's not fun. Like, I like it when you're able to stay in combat and you're able to do something about the monster decisions. So far, with everything that we've seen in not Elden Ring, in Path of Exile 2, with the exception of the exploding boss that we referenced already, it looks like they've taken all the good things from some of the games that we've mentioned in the boss fights, and I hope it stays.
The boss fights looked great.
Mm-hmm. They showed us like 12 different bosses, and they all looked phenomenal. And so, I mean, our jaws dropped when that one guy came out of the lock. You know what I mean? And he had like all these octopus arms, and he ended up having all these lightning laser beams.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it looked
just
awesome.
So
it looked
cool.
Great.
Yeah, it does. So,
and you have to remember that in the axe alone is expected to be 100 bosses. So we've seen less than 10%.
Yeah,
of the game, which is crazy. That's just nuts.
And that's. Yeah, and I mean, sure, all of them are going to be map bosses, but they're just going to be harder and better. So anyway, I mean, I know we kind of went on a tangent of just bosses in general, not GGG anything, but I'm very encouraged except for the exploding boss, I'm very encouraged for everything we've seen in boss battles. I can't wait, and it really does seem like GGG's taken all the good things from the different bosses that they've appreciated in other games and have done their best to apply it to this game. So very excited. Now, one thing that was very difficult to watch, but in a good way, and this is my last note for this week, unless you have something else. But one thing that was difficult for me to watch, but in a good way, was when all of a sudden in the Path of Exile in the third Path of Exile 2 trailer, they started listing the classes.
Okay.
Right. Just on the bottom of the screen, and they were showing a small 5-second clip of each one. They started off with the witch, and then they go ranger, and then they go, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden they start showing the other ones, and you're like, I'm trying to remember, what are they all going to be? And so we ended up discovering, and I mean, this was the assumption when they long announced this in 2019, but they were going to have multiple classes per attribute set or combination. So like they were going to have 2 classes for intelligence, 2 for strength, 2 for dex, and then 2 for each of the split attribute options. And then of course there was, sorry about that. Of course there was the assumption that there would be 2 ascendants as well. Now we know that's not going to be a thing. So we've gone from having 14 classes to 12. But they introduced the sorceress, huntress, warrior, druid, mercenary, and monk. I think this question is going to be pointless to you because I already sent this to you throughout the week, but hopefully you were too busy. If you were to write down the 6 new classes, who would you match them up with?
You sent me that this week?
Okay, so don't look. Just write them down. I'll write them. Okay.
But you asked me that question this week? I'm not looking at anything, but you sent me that question this week? I remember you sent me the picture that I saw here. Okay. But I don't think you liked my response. I didn't realize there was a question that went with it.
You didn't care. You were supposed to actually continue the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
But it ended up just being one side. You wrote back and you're like, neat. And I'm like, F you. I'm trying to be excited about this crap here. Now, I know you got to take off. You have a meeting to get to.
Thumbs up.
Shut up. So...
No, go ahead. What's the question?
I'm going to list you these 6 classes, and you're going to, and I understand that you don't have it organized in front of you, so I can't give you a hard time, but where does the sorceress land? That's an easy one to me. Where's the sorceress land? Right. So to me, I agree. Sorceress and witch are going to be the 2 classes there. Mm-hmm. Huntress.
Dex. I feel like it's almost full dex, maybe slightly strength, but dex to dex strength.
All right. That's what I have. I have Huntress is with the Ranger as the pure dex.
Okay.
Warrior.
Strength.
Yep. That's what I have as well. Couple that with the Marauder. So now we have Druid, Mercenary, and Monk.
So Druid to me should be dex int. What was
so
that
that's
one?
with the Shadow.
So
Okay.
there was Druid. What was the next one?
I have that as well. Druid with the Shadow for dex int. Now we have a Mercenary and a Monk.
Oh, I'm going to say Monk is strength int and Mercenary is strength dex.
You know what? That's exactly what I have as well. I have the Mercenary with the Duelist and the Monk with the Templar. And originally I thought I was going to have a difficult time with that. But then
They
I'm
do
like,
kind of make sense.
like the Monk and the Templar, just thematically from what those two characters represent from whatever
It's
lore
the
perspective.
healing and the attacking, like it seems.
And more like religious-y, right?
Right.
Like Templar and Monk to me from like just the religious standpoint. And then they already mentioned that the Druid was going to be int and hybrid. And then to me, Mercenary and Duelist just makes sense.
Kind of makes sense, yeah.
So, and then Warrior and Marauder, what are you going to, it's not going to be Mercenary and Marauder. Come on.
No, it's got to be Warrior.
So, especially with how much they showed with the Warrior. I mean,
we saw it a lot.
we did. Yeah, big axe slam. So, yeah, we have Witch Sorceress, Ranger Huntress, Marauder Warrior, Shadow Druid, Duelist Mercenary, Templar Monk. We got it. Now I just can't wait. Now, if they show us all 36 ascendancies, that's going to be fun to put together. Just give us names. I know I want to see what all the nodes are.
36 ascendancies in the new game, just in PoE 2. There's 36 total.
Well, yeah, because now there's 12 classes times 3. Each one's going to have 3.
Wait,
that
is the
was
Templar
asked and answered.
So is the Templar also in PoE 2?
Yes.
And Marauder is also in PoE 2?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So that's when we were talking there last week. I think there was a miscommunication with what the expectation was there, because there is going to be a Witch and Sorceress in PoE 2. And a Ranger
will the Witch
and
have the same ascendancies as what they had in PoE 1? Or
see, that's what we don't know. So they have yet to do any of that. But the Sorceress will not be in PoE 1.
Okay, the thing is, I feel like the ascendancies almost have to change then if that's the case, because if the Witch comes out with Elementalist when you have a Sorceress, makes no sense at all. So there's got to be something that's changing. Oh, that's cool. Wow,
yeah, it is.
Jesus, that's a lot.
It is. So I'm really excited to just get the names. Like, obviously, I want to see the actual trees.
Or just the first 3 letters of the name.
Just the first line of each letter of each class. No, so I'm excited to see what the 36 names of the ascendancies are, because I want to guess which ones they're going to be in. Because as a minion player, I'm thinking, okay, the Witch is going to have like some undead minion stuff. That'll be there. But you know what? The Druid's got to have some minion stuff too. And I'll bet you the Templar and Monk are going to have ally-based perks. Hope maybe the Huntress could have some stuff too.
She summons a tiger.
Oh, in.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it'll be fun. I'm
fun
excited.
little game, Just. Thanks for playing.
And it gives us more stuff to talk about for the next year at least. So we're going to make it to 300. Yeah. Oh, it's fun. I'm excited for it. It's going to be, next week will be fun then, because we'll get to see the, what's it called? Trial of the
Ancestors.
Ancestors. That's what it is. Yeah. So we'll be talking about that with BK next week. That'll be fun. But yeah, it's good. It's been good. Let's wrap this up, eh?
It's been good.
Thanks for hanging out with us for our hot tub episode. It was, we're getting a little pruny. So, we got to wrap this up. Episode 200, Forever Exiled. I'm Justin, aka Tags.
And I'm Tyler, Wrecker of Days.
Thank you, everybody, again for just, hanging out with us, getting us to 200. That's very, very cool. Patrons, we will see you in After Dark. Everybody else will see you next week with Brittle Knee in episode 201. If you're looking for more information, you'll find it down below. We got a website, foreverexiled.com. We're on Twitter, foreverexiled82. We have a very fun Discord you should be a part of if you're not. And Patreon, other ways to support the podcast down below. Don't forget to hit that 5-star on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, because, it's like a butt slap for us. And we like those.
A good butt slap, a nice one. Like after you caught a ball and everybody's impressed on your team. They're like, wow, way to go, Ty.
Yeah, screw high fives. Give me that butt.
Give me that butt.
Give me that butt. Anyway,
Hey,
thanks,
Just,
everybody.
Hey, Just, butt. Come on.
I'm presenting.
Oh, I see that.
All right, see you next week.
You know, though, 200 isn't a rep digit.
Nah, 222. It's gonna be big. Just you wait.
Big hot tub.
It's gonna be
Big hot tub.